So we've got two inexcused absences. One obviously being Hassan. The second one is Aaron. Aaron and I spoke before OTA started. He's been very good in communication. He's been here the entire time. It's inexcused, but he had an event that was very important to him, which he communicated.
Both are inexcused.
Both inexcused. Yes.
So are they getting fined? Is Redding getting
they're both subject to the CBA fine schedule.
Pretty much everything, to be honest with you. It's a lot of stuff that I did in college, and I think that translate very well for a lot of us. I think it fits what we do. I think Half do a great job so far with putting us in the right position, I want to say. I just think it's just like his attention to details and everything like that and how we are so far. But everything stands out about this defense because it's similar to what I've done before. Not only that, but a lot of guys as well. So I love it so far.
Is this team in a good spot right now?
Mr. Larry, I wouldn't be lying. I'd be lying to you if I said we wasn't. Because honestly, I don't been on the championship team, and I understand that it's college and this is the NFL. But the chemistry is there already. And anytime you have a team where the chemistry is there, that's a good sign. You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, we still got to play football, but the chemistry is there, and that's all you can ask for right now, to be honest with you.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Packer Universe Podcast. We're a Green Bay Packers fan podcast that brings you topical and relevant Packers news along with our most humble, subjective opinions. This is episode 274. We're recording this on a Wednesday, June 12th. Mandatory minicamp is over. We'll talk about the takeaways we've noticed this week. I'm your host, Tay. And joining me on the comms tonight is our one and only
Ren. What up, Tay? How you doing after your little respite from the Packer Universe podcast?
I'm doing good. I'm recharged. I had gone north for a week into the great wilderness of Canada, where, there's some CFL action up there, but not during the summer. So I kind of got away from everything here, away from football. But now I'm back, and man, the Packers, I guess today was the last day, according to Matt LaFleur. We're done. And that was it for mandatory minicamp. But overall, we're going to show you today, as we kind of go through some of these things, the Packers are in a good spot, and they themselves believe that they are. So all things are positive with that run. We opened the show with kind of a juxtaposition, as you'd like to call it, with maybe some of the old ways the Packers had to deal with, the old ways. And now we have a new team, a new era, a new way of things. But what I want to get your first reaction. We don't have to get too much into it because we don't want to make it our baggage again and again and again. But Aaron Rodgers doesn't show up to minicamp. What did you first think of that when you heard that?
Oh, man. I know he's been there through the entirety of the OTAs, but the unexcused minicamp piece and just his talking points throughout the offseason about, the things that are important with regard to team building and throw all the drama out the door. We got all these things to do, obviously paraphrasing that. And then he does this complete opposite thing, which we've gotten so used to here in Packer universe with number 12 now, number 8. And man, he certainly controlled a lot of things here. But when you look at that juxtaposition and then you hear what Quay Walker's talking about in this baby pack, this completely revitalized, turned over roster in the last 2 years with this young, effervescent football team with all the vibes, Tay. That's the word for the offseason for the Packers and the Packers team is that collectivity, that connectivity, and just the good vibes. And, yes, it is mandatory minicamp. It was yesterday. It was today. I figured tomorrow wouldn't happen. More of a probably team building day, or maybe you just let them go. I'm not sure. I have not seen that today. I had a busy day doing other things myself. Look forward to reading some of the news and notes about that as I peruse my Green Bay Packer Universe news stuff when I go to bed tonight. But it's just so refreshing to have this young cohesive unit with this new defensive coordinator. You hear about anecdotes from Keyshawn Nixon on Up and Adams with Kay Adams, just talking about Jeff Halfley's defense and pushing Matt LaFleur even in practice. And he loves it, having a defensive minded coach that's also, the cornerback, backfield coach as well, which is not something he's used to with the D coordinator. It's just everything you hear, and I think an overarching aspect of the offseason for the Packers has been the vibes, the phenomenal attendance through OTAs and minicamp, obviously 3 excused absences here in Green Bay with regard to 3 of those defensive backs, Xavier McKinney, Keyshawn Nixon, and Jair Alexander. But, LaFleur said, and Halfley and those, the folks in Green Bay said, those guys outplayed and lived and gave those expectations and showed that to everybody else. So they earned those excused absences here for minicamp. But you can't help but feel, like I said, the vibes, the attendance, this team has a lot to play for in the 2024 season. Mm-hmm. And we don't have to worry about any old baggage holding things back, doing the things he wants to do the way he wants to do them. And it doesn't apply to anyone else but him when it applies to him. So it's just, he's not a member of the Packers anymore, but man, it is so fun again to be a Packer fan and not have to deal with any of that.
Exactly. I second that. And I think I was listening to Rich Eisen's comments today about that. And, he's a super New York Jets guy. And he had a lot to say about it. But in the end, he said, well, I don't think this is going to affect week 1 when Aaron comes out on the field. Like, it's not going to affect any of that stuff. But we just had to sit back and just sit back and smile and know that was once our quarterback, and a lot of that drama wasn't here in Green Bay. And to create that again for your team that you're on, it is, to me, insane. He knows it's coming. He knows what he did. He knows it's going to draw huge, all this attention to it. And so why would you do that on purpose? I don't know. And there's so many different ways he could have gotten ahead of this, but it's just kind of like, I don't know, just for him, this is Aaron, and it's just like he can't get away from that. But thankfully for us,
Tay,
yeah.
I was gonna say, apparently, Tay, he's attending an event that's very important to him.
Very,
I don't know if
it's
the 2024 conspiracy theory symposium.
Yeah. So yeah, I was gonna ask you like wrong answer only. Where do you think he is?
That's the one I'm going with. The 2024 conspiracy theory symposium. He is, maybe a keynote speaker there. So
I think
it was really important. It was really important to him as Solid goes on in that clip you let off with. He does end it with, "Hey, if it's important to Aaron, it's important to us," which just means whatever he wants to do, we're gonna let him do it.
My money's on some darkness blind date seminar thing to find somebody. Some weird mashup that no one has ever heard of. And I mean, obviously we will know, and we will laugh, and we will critique it heavily when we finally figure it out. But yeah, let's move on, Ren. We want to leave that baggage at the baggage claim and walk away from that. But before we get into, I do have some comments about your comments here. But before we do that, I just want to give a shout out to our Bears analyst, Joey Christopoulos. He was on a video special last episode for us. Go to our YouTube channel to check it out. His take on the Bears offseason so far and how they're feeling down there right now. He tells us all. So search YouTube for Packer Universe Podcast, or click the link below in the show notes, and you can find that there. That's a good listen. We appreciate Joey for going on the show. Just getting a different perspective, I think, especially in the NFC North. with one of your rivals is, I think, sometimes important, just to see how good you have it, or maybe go to toe to toe with the expectations that are happening this year. But I want to give a shout out to Joey. Thank you very much for coming on last week's episode. So Matt LaFleur announced today that this was it. I thought we were maybe getting another day, and we didn't know for sure. But he said today in his press conference that typically the last day is like some sort of team building event, but they had that bowling event last week, so he kind of counts that. So therefore, he was just like, "Nah, we're done. We're done here." And then you kind of alluded to it. You said Alexander, McKinney, and Nixon, they kind of had minicamp off, which is fine. I think there's some contractual stuff in there, like they've participated in enough off-season activities to qualify in their contract so that they didn't actually have to be here. And I guess it is
mandatory, Tay, but I guess
until
mandatory has different definitions for different people at different times, and
when the head coach is
mostly
saying
mandatory, mostly mandatory minicamp.
When you're excused from practice, like, that's okay, right? Like you're attending, and if the coach and the team is saying you don't have to be here, you've fulfilled what you need to do, that's fine. And I love that. Like, I love the fact that they showed up, and maybe it was a contract thing, but still they showed up in voluntary OTAs. They put in all the time. Everyone was here. We talked about that a few weeks ago, how the vibe was awesome. Everyone was here, great attendance. And then you get excused. Like, that's how it should work here in this situation. Everyone joins, and then the coach can say, "Oh, you're a veteran, or you have an injury, whatever. You get time off. Good job."
And there was a number of times, Tay, through the OTA portion where they did have 100% attendance, which, I mean, you look around the league and that's just unheard of. And again, that's part of that, whole vibe that the Packers are feeling. They know that they have a lot in front of them. They're young, they're hungry, and they're ready to challenge for, a Super Bowl here in 2024.
The players that were still not practicing with, because they have injuries, I think was Alex Magoo, Keaton, Oladapo, Zach Tom.
Oladapo, Tay.
Yep.
Are you just trying to get me on that one there?
We got Tyler Davis and Tucker Kraft, of course. So good thing is, though, Ren, during this mandatory minicamp, there were no new, injuries that came out of that. So you got to love that. I think, going into training camp now, which is the next phase, no new injuries. So all these guys that didn't participate because they had a current one can get some time off and get those people back. So that's what, Coach LaFleur was really looking for. I don't know, like the vibe coming out of this mandatory minicamp was great. I mean, from both sides of the ball, the offense and all the offensive players, got some good reps with things. The defensive players are excited about this new system. So I love where the team is at. I don't know particularly like what they actually get done in mandatory minicamp. To be honest with you, they just kind of do drills, hang out together. I know it's mandatory, but it just seems like they don't get a lot in until training camp now. It's not necessarily worrying for me, but I just wonder what they actually got done. If they we're going to call it off tomorrow. We don't really need to go. Some of these guys don't have to show up, all this stuff.
Again, I think with the defense part, it was a lot of those installs happening, starting to see those, edge rushers / defensive ends now with their hand in the dirt, them looking, into some of these nickel looks and Halfley's defense, pressing Jordan Love, testing Jordan Love, letting Jordan Love call some plays at the line, giving a little more freedom in these OTAs and minicamp, just to, get a little new work under him rather than Matt calling plays. Steno was calling the plays, so he's just kind of overseeing the football team. So it was interesting. I mean, you have other standouts like Bull Melton, obviously having just a phenomenal OTAs. In camp, he's kind of one of those storylines. Obviously, yesterday, Zane Anderson, you have half the defensive backfield out, so you got a guy who was, just a guy on the Wii fence last year, out of BYU, who initially started his NFL career with the Kansas City Chiefs and won a Super Bowl with them, getting 3 picks off of Sean Clifford yesterday. So a little rough go for our number 8, the big red dog, Sean Clifford. So there's not a lot to glean from this stuff. But again, I think the most important thing that the universe can take away from the entire offseason activity portion was, just how this team is gelling. And you really get excited about July 2022 when they report and this thing gets underway, and it's going to be here before we know it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think one of the cool things that we saw this week was kind of the offensive line dance. I mean, there were some guys that were out, right? But at the same time, you get the rookies in there kind of doing some different things. I think you saw the process this week with finding the top 5 or the right 5, or what was that key word that they kept throwing around? But the best 5, and I think that's what you're seeing here is the process. I mean, Tuesday's practice started with Dillard, Jenkins, Myers, Sean, Ryan, and then Jordan Morgan, right? So you have this little jockeying around just to try some things out, and I love that. And you got to see some of the rookies play some different spots, and I don't think you should take away anything definitive from any of those positions that those rookies were doing, but it's just nice to see the process happen in front of you, and that's exactly what you want to see. You don't want them to be stuck in a position. You want to try these guys out all across the line to see what you have there. So I love that. Yeah,
I agree. I think we're going to see a lot more of that come training camp today. Obviously, Zach Tom unavailable with the pec. They're going to just keep shuffling this thing and keep trying to develop Dillard too as their, likely replacement for Yosh Nijman as a swing tackle. That's how he's going to have to make the team. It's just one of those things, and we're going to see a lot of offensive line shifting. Where does Jordan Morgan, end up being to start the season? I still think, he might, be the 6th man come the start of the season and ready to come in and jump in at right tackle if they need him, or at left guard. It just depends on where things end up, but it's going to be a fun piece to watch today. I think one of the other pieces was really that kicker competition. It seems like with some more pressure, your guy Anders Carlson has really started to look better. There's been a lot of talk, the first 5 years of Mason Crosby's career, what his field goal percentage looked like, and, sticking with the guy and inevitably, leading to a 16-year career in Green Bay. So it seems like he's taken that step forward to really earning that job. And inevitably, I think we both kind of knew he's probably going to get the job.
Yeah. And people are speculating that all 3 of them will start camp. Like they won't drop Pulensi or whatever his name is. Even you're not going to drop Greg Joseph because you want that Carlson competition there. But yeah, and they all did well today. This last practice today on Wednesday, they all did well. So it's maybe that affects that going into training camp, whether they're pulling 2 or pulling 3 kickers. But I think we all know the reality here, Ren, and it's going to be Anders. They're going to stick with them, and I'm fine with that. It was irritating to me last year when they had an option to bring in someone that you knew could make a field goal and make the extra points, and they stuck with someone that potentially couldn't. And I think going forward, Anders is going to get better. So I predict that, it's not rocket science that this guy's going to get better, get more confidence, get a better kicking game. And he's young. He's Rich Bisaccia's guy. So it's like, we all know these things. It's going to happen. It's nice to have a little pressure from Greg Joseph on Anders, but we all know it's going to happen. And he could turn out to be the guy. So I'm not saying he's not going to be. It was just last year when I had a problem with him.
Yeah. And sometimes, again, you need to develop a guy, and you don't want to give up too early, because if you can have a guy that ends up on your team over a decade at that position, you're in great shape. One of the other We Fans guys, that's Danny Whalen, the punter. He just killed it throughout all of OTAs and minicamp, and there's no question they've got the right guy punting the football in Green Bay at the moment. So that job is locked down. It'll be interesting to see who maybe sticks as the sixth receiver coming to minicamp again, how that offensive line shuffles out. But there's not a ton of battles, Tay. That's the interesting / good thing. They know what they have at most positions, and they're pretty darn good there. It'll be interesting to see guys like Cooper get more reps with the ones in camp, stuff like that, at that off-ball linebacker position,
middle linebacker,
the middle linebacker position. If he starts getting paired more with Quay, wasn't necessarily the case through the OTAs, et cetera. But same with Bullard. He wasn't getting a lot of runs with the ones, but I think we're going to see more and more of that shift and a lot of looks, and that's what's going to be fun to watch come training camp.
Yeah, exactly. And with the locker room press conferences and the interviews today and yesterday and stuff like that, the defensive players are just loving where the team is at, loving the energy, loving the Hafley system. They're expressing their excitement for it, and how the attack is happening. It's on. And I think guys like Preston Smith, even Rashawn Gary, these guys are like, yes, we can get after it now. I'm going to, be doing things I always wanted to do on this defense, and things I maybe haven't done in a while, pin my ears back, get to the quarterback. So, to have the energy just through the roof at the end of mandatory minicamp is awesome for this defense, because that'll build confidence and excitement going into training camp. But yeah, like you said, it's like the safety position, I guess, the inside linebackers, like that's kind of the position battles we've got here on defense. And then offensively, maybe you're looking at what shakes out with the offensive line. That's that fifth or sixth, seventh wide receiver. Like, what's going on there?
Third tight end.
Yeah.
Is it Sims, Davis? Does Davis make it back through? To the previous champion of special teams. What does that look like? But it's really fringe stuff. I mean, they're really in good spot at a lot of depth at these skill positions. Obviously, Marshawn Lloyd, what he's going to look like at training camp, I think is going to be a fun piece to watch.
Yeah. Lloyd versus Dylan. Sounds like a boxing match.
I don't know if Marshawn wants to box AJ. I don't know. Maybe he's faster, and he can get around the brute force. Yeah. But yeah, I'd put my money on AJ at this point. But that said, I think that's really the kind of stuff we'll key on. There'll be more interesting pieces to talk about, but we really hope as we get to the off season, we'll try to figure out, hey, what's the final 53-man roster look like? We'll finally put some pen to paper on, which wins and losses really equated to my 11-6 season. And I think you went along with, finally you had to get pushed a little bit with your 11-6 season. But this Packers team has, the way the schedule shakes out and the way things are going to work, it's going to be certainly a fun thing come training camp. I'll get down there. We'll be able to pick and choose all of, one or two dates from the whole 12 they'll give us this year. It seems like there's one less every year. We know that Packer Family Night is August the 3rd, I want to say.
Yep.
So it's starting to shape up, man, and summer already feels like it's over.
I know. It just got hot.
Yeah, right.
So yeah, training camp opens July 22nd. That's the first day. As kind of on Twitter, or X, this afternoon, Wes Hodkiewicz, Packers.com writer, quotes Rashawn Gary saying that, some of the Packers have some plans, in the next month to get together in the offseason. He's quoted as saying, me, Kenny, Preston, we're going to get the guys together in either in Dallas or Cali for workout. And I feel that that's important to me being a leader. So you look at that and you're like, okay, these guys are getting together. The defensive guys, like you kind of rarely see that or hear about it. At least you always hear about like the quarterbacks getting with the wide receivers or the running backs, but the defensive guys getting together, in this next month off, that's awesome and great to hear. That'll just build the camaraderie back there in the defense as a whole. But one last thing I wanted to bring up, Bren, before we get out of here. Cheesehead TV had a great interview with Goody yesterday.
That's a big get, man. That's the second time I believe I've had him.
Yeah. And it's hard to read Goody on what he thinks about it all. On kind of like a fan site interview, but he's doing it and he seems to have fun doing it, and he's laughing with the guys and stuff. So that's great for them. Congratulations, Cheesehead TV, Corey and Aaron over there. But they were asking great questions of Goody. Whether he answers them fully or giving us the answers that we want is another thing. But one thing I took away from it was that for me, it was the first time that Goody indicated that there was going to be a contract extension for Jordan Love. The way he kind of used his words, he said stuff like, yeah, I want it to get done, or I want this to happen. And to me, you can correct me if I'm wrong, Ren, but I never heard that kind of, wordage from Gutekunst about the contract. It was always something the fans and the media said, yeah, they're going to do that. This is smart for the Packers to do this. But I never heard it from Goody himself until I listened to that interview where he's like, yeah, I want this to happen. I want it to be done. So he's alluding to it, that it's a thing and they're going to try to do it before camp starts. Whether that's, will come to pass, we'll see. We all hope it does. But to me, that was great to hear from the horse's mouth, the GM, that a deal is supposed to get done.
Yeah, a deal is imminent, Tay. While you were, dropping a line out in the lakes in Canada, it was reported last week that there likely is going to be a deal done before training camp. As I told you a couple weeks back, it's going to be a day like, June 26th and in the middle of nothingness to talk about. And the deal is going to happen. Might be July 12th. I mean, it doesn't really matter. That's, potato versus potato. But if you heard Jordan when he was available to the media, I believe that was yesterday afternoon or sometime this morning. He gets asked 5 kind of quick questions from Rob, our friend Rob, from Ryan Wood, from a couple other guys, and they're all, the first questions led are about getting the contract done. Yeah. And he's pretty short and quick with the answers, but they were all positive. And he alluded to, yes, he believes something's going to get done. So that tells you. And they asked one of the questions, I think it was Ryan Wood, paraphrasing, asked, does he think it'll get done soon? And generally, basically, he says yes. So it tells you, and does he like to be involved in the process too? He's like, yeah, to a point, I do. Yep. So it's going to happen, and it's going to happen over the next 4 weeks, and we'll get to talk about it. We know it's all going to be that 50 plus range. I would guess somewhere $53 million annually, with who knows how many hundreds of millions of dollars guaranteed. Yes. So it's coming down the pipe. And the nice thing is, after the post-June cut officially of Devondre Campbell, the Packers, I believe, have the 8th most salary cap available left of teams in the NFL currently. And we're still talking about a lot of dead money on the cap from some contracts like David Bakhtiari's. So there's ways to filter some of this into this year and make this thing look pretty nice throughout the course of the deal. Whether it's a 4 or 5 year deal, it'll be interesting to find out. But I think it's going to sound big, but it's going to work out well for both parties.
Yeah, I hope so. I just hope they don't overpay. That's how much of a stickler I am for that sort of thing. But it's going to happen how it happens, and I'm going to have to deal with it one way or the other. But obviously, when that comes down, we'll talk about it for sure. And then you kind of alluded to it, but I think in the next couple of weeks, Ren, you and I will, put the L's and the W's to our predictions. Also, I would like to pin you down with what you think and who you think will be on the 53-man roster. Let's do predictions before training camp starts, and then maybe
Absolutely.
when we do get to that final 53, let's compare. That'll be fun. So I'd like to do that coming up soon. But you know what? I think we've talked enough about the Packers. There's a special event I need to get to right now, and it's very important to me. And I'm not going to tell you what it is, but just find me according to the CBA, metrics, whatever you got to do. But there's an event I got to go to. So let's wrap this up, Ren.
Absolutely, yeah. We'll also be working on hopefully some more guest content over the next month, and we'll see what comes down the pipe with that. So I look forward to you and I having some new guests on the show. It'll be fun, and we'll dip our toes more in that water on the YouTube channel.
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining me, Ren. Thanks everyone for listening. Head over to our social sites, follow us there. Of course, if you haven't subscribed to the podcast, do that. Subscribe to YouTube channel. That helps us out greatly. Send us a question or comments to info@PackerUniverse.com. Thank you, Packer Universe. We appreciate it, and we'll see you very soon.
Yeah, Tay. Until episode 275 on the pup list.